Number 10. Fire in a place with no escape. Fire is already bad. Fire in space is a personality trait called absolute nightmare. On Earth, fire goes up. Smoke rises. You crawl low. You run. In a spacecraft, fire goes everywhere. Flames spread in slow, floating blobs like they're exploring too. Smoke doesn't rise, it just hangs out, in your lungs. The worst astronaut deaths involving fire weren't caused by explosions or dramatic movie nonsense. They were caused by oxygen-rich environments, tight spaces, and the horrifying fact that there is nowhere to go. No doors to kick open, no windows to smash, just switches, alarms, and seconds evaporating. Here's the psychology problem. Humans are terrible at imagining fire behaving differently than we expect. Astronauts trained for vacuum, radiation, and orbital math nightmares, yet fire still managed to be the most primitive, unstoppable killer in the room. Once it starts, your body has to react perfectly under conditions evolution never prepared you for. Vision goes. Breathing becomes painful. Panic competes with training. And the clock is ruthless. Basically, space didn't kill them. Fire did, because fire doesn't care that you're brilliant. Number 9. When pressure becomes the enemy. Your body is held together by pressure. Lose it too fast and things get weird in a hurry. Rapid depressurization isn't the explosive movie moment people imagine. It's quieter, faster, and far less negotiable. Air rushes out, oxygen vanishes. Your body doesn't explode, it fails. The brain has about 10 seconds of useful consciousness without oxygen. 10. That's barely enough time to realize something is wrong, let alone fix it. What makes these deaths especially tragic is how invisible the danger is. Space looks calm. The spacecraft looks intact. But one seal, one valve, one unnoticed failure turns the environment into something your biology simply cannot survive. Your brain expects danger to announce itself. Pressure loss doesn't. It just politely removes your ability to stay alive. Basically, space doesn't attack you. It just stops helping. Number 8. Engineering errors, not heroic ones. People love to imagine astronaut deaths as brave last stands against the void. In reality, many of the worst ones came down to math, materials, and decisions made far from orbit. A bolt rated slightly wrong. A system tested enough. A risk accepted because schedules matter and budgets scream. Astronauts trust machines designed by humans, and humans are incredible at being almost correct. The psychology trap here is normalization of deviance. When something works despite being flawed, the flaw starts to feel acceptable. Each successful mission quietly lowers the alarm threshold until physics collects its debt. When failure finally happens, it looks sudden, but it's usually been forming for years. The astronauts didn't make reckless choices. They trusted systems built by people who didn't think today would be the day. Basically, these weren't deaths caused by space being cruel. They were caused by space being unforgiving. Number 7. Re-entry is not a victory lap. Getting to space is hard. Coming back is harder, and your brain loves pretending the dangerous part is over once you're heading home. Re-entry turns a spacecraft into a controlled meteor. You're slamming into the atmosphere at absurd speeds, wrapped in plasma, trusting heat shields, angles, and math done years ago by people who really hoped they were right. The psychology failure here is finish line blindness. Humans relax too early. Once the goal feels achieved, vigilance drops. But physics doesn't celebrate milestones. It enforces rules. The worst astronaut deaths during re-entry weren't dramatic mistakes by the crew. They were tiny failures compounding at the worst possible moment. Damage that didn't matter in space suddenly mattered a lot in atmosphere. A crack, a tile, a vulnerability that had been quiet until it wasn't. At that point, there's nothing to do. No skill check, no heroic correction, just heat, speed, and inevitability. Basically, space missions don't end when you turn around. They end when physics agrees to let you stop. Number 6. Training for everything except the one thing. Astronauts train obsessively. Simulations, redundancies, emergency drills for scenarios so specific they sound fictional. And still, some of the worst deaths came from situations no one fully rehearsed. Not because of laziness, but because you can't practice everything. Your brain loves preparedness. It equates training with control. But space introduces combinations of failures that don't exist anywhere else. Systems interact, problems cascade, and suddenly you're in a scenario that technically exists, but not in the simulator. Under extreme stress, humans revert to training. If the training doesn't match reality, hesitation creeps in. Seconds matter. Confusion wins. This isn't incompetence. It's biology meeting environments it was never meant to operate in. Basically, even the most prepared humans alive can still be surprised by a universe that doesn't care about your curriculum. Number 5. When help is millions of miles away. On Earth, disaster has a backup plan called other humans. In space, that plan expires quickly. Something goes wrong on a spacecraft, and there is no fire department, no ambulance, no medevac. Just you, your crewmates, and whatever tools happen to be floating nearby. The psychological weight of this is enormous. Every decision carries the knowledge that mistakes are final. There's no escalation, no second opinion, just silence outside the hull. Some astronaut deaths weren't caused by immediate catastrophe, but by slow, unsolvable problems. Systems failing beyond repair, environments becoming gradually unlivable, time running out with nothing to trade for it. What makes these deaths so haunting isn't panic, it's clarity. Knowing exactly what's happening and exactly how little can be done. Basically, space doesn't rush you. It lets you understand the situation completely and then waits. Number 4. When communication fails. Humans are social animals. We solve problems by talking, coordinating, arguing. In space, that lifeline can disappear in an instant. Lose communication, and suddenly you're alone with your thoughts, alarms, and a growing sense that no one knows what's happening to you. Or worse, they know something is wrong but can't help. Radio silence isn't just technical failure, it's psychological torture. Astronauts rely on ground control not just for instructions, but for reassurance. For confirmation that what they're seeing makes sense. When that voice goes away, stress skyrockets and decision-making suffers. Some of the worst astronaut deaths were made worse by broken or delayed communication. Commands that arrived too late. Warnings that couldn't get through. Confusion multiplying in a vacuum that already hates you. Your brain assumes help is reachable. Space loves breaking that assumption. Basically, silence in space isn't peaceful, it's deafening. Number 3. Small mistakes in a big system. Spacecraft are massive systems held together by tiny actions. A switch flipped too early. A valve opened in the wrong order. A checklist item skipped because everything seemed fine. The psychology problem here is familiarity. When you've done something many times without consequence, your brain stops treating it as dangerous. Routine dulls fear, precision erodes into habit. In space, habit is dangerous. Systems are interconnected in ways that punish even minor deviations. One incorrect step can cascade into multiple failures faster than the brain can catch up. The astronauts didn't panic. They didn't act stupidly. They trusted routine in an environment that demands perfection. Basically, space doesn't care if the mistake was small. It cares if it was fatal. Number 2. Survival depends on a thin line of metal. Down here, the air just exists. In space, it's a luxury item. Astronauts live separated from death by walls thinner than your patience on a bad day. Every breath is borrowed from a system that must work perfectly, continuously, forever. When that system fails slowly or suddenly, there's no dramatic villain. Just numbers dropping, oxygen thinning, CO2 rising. Your body doesn't understand what's happening at first. You feel tired, foggy, calm even. That's the scariest part. By the time panic should kick in, your brain is already losing the ability to panic correctly. Some of the worst astronaut deaths weren't violent. They were quiet, clinical, terrifyingly efficient. Basically, space doesn't need to attack you. It just stops supporting you. Number 1. Space was never forgiving. This is the truth behind all of it. Astronaut deaths aren't about recklessness or stupidity. They're about humans pushing into an environment that does not compromise. Space doesn't adjust for courage. It doesn't reward intelligence. It doesn't care about experience. Every mission succeeds because thousands of things go right at the same time. Every disaster happens when just enough things go wrong. The tragedy isn't that astronauts died doing something dangerous. It's that they accepted the danger knowing exactly what was at stake. Because exploration has always been paid for in risk. Space didn't suddenly become hostile. It was always this way. Basically, astronauts don't die because space is evil. They die because space is honest. That's all for today. I'll be making similar videos in the future. Subscribe to see them.